Hello, friends. Welcome back to Art Yourself Studio YouTube channel. And I would like to teach you the fourth secret to becoming a competent artist. As you can see on my screen, I am sharing a picture of this beautiful magnolia, and it is painted by Giacomo Cara. And first lesson is when you use somebody else's artwork, please give them credit. This is his photograph. It's a beautiful magnolia, and I want to paint it with you today and teach you the fourth secret. And really simply, the fourth secret is to see. I want to teach you to look how to see the subject and inspect for the details. Look at the edges, the softness and the hardness of the edges, and where the shaded edges are. So right here in the beginning, you'll see, I'm going to erase my pencil line right here. I have sketched out this. I looked at it, I drew it, and I sketched it. And for the sake of this tutorial, it's you'll see the pencil line. But when you're doing it yourself, I'd love for you to do it really lightly with your pencil or no pencil at all. Just to give you a little bit of a guideline. I had to draw it a little bit darker so that you could see it. So what I see here is I see the edges are really soft, and I'm going to paint this first petal as just an example. I'm putting in water. I'm doing the wet on wet technique. I'm dropping in the water. And what I want you to notice too is once you start painting, if you erase it, the water tends to make the lead solidify. So if you start painting it, don't try not to have your lead pencil showing first, but second, if it is showing, just leave it. Don't erase it, because if it's wet and you try to erase it, you will end up ruining it. So for this beautiful magnolia, I'm going to take a nice pink, and it's really rich in the middle. I'm going to drop the color in. And what I see as I'm looking at it, what I see is some really beautiful deep pinks in here. And then I see it pulling up. I am using my practice workbook. If you saw the secret too, you would know to have two books, your good copy and your play copy. And this is my play copy. And all I'm doing is just letting this water move the paint. I want to keep it dark down here because what I notice is it's really dark at the base. And then if you want to, since I had so much water in, I can let it just stretch forward and let that bleed out into the tip. It's really beautiful if you leave some of the tip white. Okay, so what I'm observing is that the tip is more white than what I've painted. So I'm going to clean out my brush. I'm just going to wipe out some color and just stretch it and pull it through. So that's what I see. Now I see over here, I see this tip is really white and it's really deep down here. So let's get that wet. Try not to touch that edge because it will bleed. It's pretty wet. I'm grabbing the tip. At the base, I'm grabbing some deep paint here. And then I'll clean up my brush. And what I notice is there's, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I see there's like a dark line coming through here. So we're going to just pull that up and try to bring some hint of color to the tip. It is white. I see it as a white at the very tip, but ever so pale. And what we'll do at the end is we will be doing some negative painting to put the green in. Okay, and I'm going to pull that up. Underneath this light part of the petal is a teeny dark bit of pink. So I'm grabbing full color and just tapping it in and pulling it up. And don't worry, if you go out of the lines a little bit like I did here, that's fine. I'm going to just rub that out. when I can take the paper towel and lay next to it. These paper towels are always really good to have handy. I know I'm going to paint in some green there for the background, so I'm not too worried about that. I also have a light pink here in the center, so I just did a little watery color. And then what I want you to notice is there's again, a dark edge down here. So I need to keep this edge light and this edge light. So I'm going to take some more paint, but a little stronger consistency. Right now we've been using tea and water. Let me pick up my book and let this teeny bubble just pull through. Now the page is buckling because it is in the practice book, so don't let that discourage you. It's just practice. It's just to have fun. So I'm going to mix here, and I'm going to probably grab a little like a pasty consistency and then add some water so it becomes creamy. And I'm going to actually make this really dark. I'm being careful not to touch what I've already painted. And that will help make that light edge show. Okay. Then we'll take some water and pull that up to the edge. Now this edge, if I'm looking closely, I see it's a little darker than the inside edge, than that one inside. So I'm going to grab a little more water, kind of wash it out a little, and just paint that in a nice light color. So I'm going a little faster than I normally would. If I were to do this on watercolor paper, the watercolor paper would absorb more, but I'm just trying to notice and really see what's happening in this painting. Let's zoom in here to this top part. I see a little darker edge, and then it's white there at the base. So I'm grabbing some color. I'm going to put a little line of the darker edge, and then with that more watery consistency. Now, if I feel like that's a little too dark, I might just tap with my paper towel and lift it out some, and then go ahead and just re-add, because I want it to be whiter. This edge also is very white. Before I get to this edge, I would like to just darken up a little point here and let that spread out. Okay, then this edge is a little darker. It is very pale, but for our purpose, as the artist, I can choose. Grabbing a little more color. Again, probably the creamy consistency. And I'm going to tap it out here because I do want that to be darker. I see some buckling here, so I'm going to go ahead and just pull that out. And please feel free to draw this yourself and give this a try. I'm tapping in some darker spots again. And we're going to zoom out. I see it's getting a little bit darker here. The key is to notice, okay, it looks white. It's a little more pink in this base here, but notice how there's a shadow in there, and it looks white, but there's like a shadow right down in there where you put your where my cursor is, you can see. So we want that to be we want to show it in here. So the way I'm going to show it is just tap in some lighter, warmer colors. Don't worry about the buckling. It's just my practice book. Here are some bubbles that I keep toying with down here. If they're really annoying and you're having a hard time controlling it, go ahead and just soak up some of that with the tip of your paper towel. Okay. There we go. As it dries, it gets a little easier to control. So let's look at this petal. I see a really light white edge, and the tip is white. So my base color, I'm going to get that thicker consistency and use my base color here. And then leave a little bit of that edge. So to me, this looks all one color. And I noticed that in the painting, what I'm noticing is it's lighter at the tip. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little more consistency. And I want to make this a little darker down here and on this edge so that you can see the variant difference. Okay. So this secret is about how to see. So let's go ahead and we're going to come back. I see lines through this, but because it's so wet, I want to come back to it. And I'm really just using one alizarin crimson, one color. I kind of want that to dry a little bit before I play around too much. So let's go in and go ahead and look closely at these buds. All right. I see a green. I see a little bit of a yellow green. I'm going to show you my palette over here. All right. So I have a yellow green here, a medium green here, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a darker green. And I could tell you, like, you could find out the names. That's easy to tell you, like, what's in your palette. But I'd like you to just get comfortable with mixing your colors and finding out what colors you have and how to make that light green. So I'm observing the top here, light green. And this obviously would show up better if I didn't have the pencil line. I'm going to go medium green, do a little like stripe of the medium green. And then I'm going to let that sit for a minute and I will work on the other ones. Notice how the edge here is light and then it's a light here, but then there's a dark shadow over here. So we're going to grab that light green and just kind of put that in. And then grab your middle green and go ahead and rub that in. And I'll come back with the dark green. And here's another little bud. And notice how the lightest part is right here on top. And this one too, it's light, even though it's underneath the branch, it's a light. Okay. And then this looks like it's a leaf unfolding right here. So I'm just gonna, even though I know it's a little darker, I'm just gonna go ahead and lay that in. Now I'm gonna grab that medium green and tap that in. And while that's drying, I see the branch as a really kind of pretty purpley brown. I don't know if you notice that, but notice how the top part is a purpley brown and it's light, and then underneath is a little darker. So this is what's going to give us our dimension, and this is how to see. And when you start seeing, you will be a confident artist because you will see what you need to do, what you're going to paint in. You just paint what you see. Sometimes we see shapes. I'm just laying that purple mixture I put down. It's purple, and then just laying it in. It's a little runny. I'm going to grab some brown right while I'm at it and tap it in underneath. And then watch how it just melts together. It's kind of the wet on wet technique. The paper's dry, so it really is called wet on dry. Okay. Now I need to add the dark greens. Might need to mix a little bit of that brown in there just to play and put that under here. I want it a little bit more contrast, so I need to add a little more green. I see it as these underneath really darker. And I'm going to add a little more dark to that green. because it's the value change that you need. It's what I see. Just paint what you see. And it's loose. This is not intended to be a real tight, perfect painting. Sometimes I like to paint tight, sometimes I like to paint loose. You get to decide as the artist. Okay. I'm gonna just round that out a little bit at the base. Just do a little stroke so it doesn't look too like the paint's just sitting there, which is kind of fun too, to be honest. You can do whatever you want. It's your painting. Okay, so I see now that it's dried up a little bit, I need a little more stripe in here. So I'm grabbing a little thicker mixture. I'm going again with the darker, just adding a little bit of dark. And what else do you see? Okay, while that's drying, it looks stripy to me. The stripes are thinner in the picture than in my painting. So maybe if I want to, I can clean it out a little bit by taking some of that paint out by lifting with my brush and paper towel. And just throwing in some skinnier lines in there. Okay, so then the next thing to really help this stand out, always look at your paintings in a mirror and you can kind of compare your painting to the picture. But the ideal is just paint what you see. All right, so what's going to make this stand out is I'm going to grab some water and just put it up to the edges. I'm going to start on this side. I find that I'm seeing some nice, pretty green background here. So I'm just going to put the water in. And I'm going to start on this side and I'm going to I love a lot of pretty greens. I bet you do too. Just tapping in some greens or some cascade green. Tapping it in. And what happens is when you tap it in, your water is moving it around. And it's called negative painting. So it makes the flower just pop out, makes the whites really pop out. So I'm going to lift the book, play, have some fun. Okay. Spread it out a little. And I like the darkness next to the flower, but I like how it gets, I see that it's getting lighter as it goes. So maybe just for interest, I'll throw a little bit of yellow in there and let that just blend out too. Okay, see how that just makes it stand out. I'm going to rub in that yellow. Now let's pick a different green for over here. I do see a couple of variations of green. You could do blue. Blue would be beautiful, but I'm just painting what I see. And this photographer, some of it's bled out here. That's okay. That's exciting. This is watercolor. It's okay. Have fun with it. And just kind of paint what you see. Okay. I'm going to grab a little different green. Maybe that light green. I'm going to tap that in there. And see how it just spreads out with the water? Okay, so I'm going to try to go, since the edges are dry now, I'm going to try to go right up to the edge. We're just painting what we see. Now, you can decide. To me, I feel like that's just all one color, and I'd like to see a little more excitement in there. So I'm going to grab some different green, medium green, and tap that in there. Oh, that's kind of dark. That might be too dark, but if I water it, spread it out. I do want dark down here anyway, so that's good. I'll pull that down and just watch the water. Look how fun it is, how it just moves around. Now, my paper, again, it's this mixed media book, so it's bumpy. Gosh, I hope you try this. Really just draw out some simple petals and tap in. This is negative painting that I'm doing here, and that's what I see. Okay, I also see some really pretty like pink back here, maybe a little pink over here. So I'll let that run into that, to the green. I'm going to make it a vignette. I'm not going to paint all the way to the edge. It's what I see. I'm having some fun with it. Down here, I see some. There we go. And then you can decide, like, what do you see in the picture? What's important to add? See how you can leave a little white edge. There we go. All right. So this is secret number 4. Paint what you see. I'm going to take the picture away now. And then let's make the picture bigger here. There we go. So I'm painting what I'm seeing. It will dry lighter. Just remember that it dries lighter. I do like to take a green and just put some splashes in there. When it's wet, they really just blend out. And I really like to have the splashes move with my painting. So I won't do it all over. I just do it to kind of come across here. And as it dries, your splashes won't be so watery. Now I'm grabbing a darker color just to continue the splash. And let's take some of that green and just, sorry, let me say that again. Some of the splash splashed onto my flower. And so here it is green. I'm just going to rub that in to my flower, and it adds a little dimension. It's okay. There we go. So there's our magnolia. And when it's dry, I'll put a picture onto the screen. And below will be a outline that you can trace if you'd like. It's fun this part when it's dry or almost dry, and you can kind of crisp up your edges, because in the painting I really saw some nice tight edges. All right. Don't have to fuss too much. Just have some fun. Use the water, let it push around. If you paint too soon, before it's all the way dry as well, you'll pick up some of the paint underneath. So you kind of don't want to do that. All right, give this a try. Secret number 4, paint what you see. Thanks for being here.